My name is Megan Longoria, and in the next 20-ish minutes, I'm going to tell you about 5 ways you can increase the accessibility of your Power BI reports. If you take away anything from this talk, it's, at least I hope what you take away, is that lots of little small changes can have really big impacts on the accessibility of your reports, and therefore have really big impacts on your users. So in the next few minutes, I will show you how to better use descriptive titles, tab order, color contrast, alt text, and the principle of no use of color alone. Let me restart my... There we go. So this is going to be mostly one big demo. And I'm going to show you a report. I did not build this report originally. It actually comes from a project called Workout Wednesday that we do as a community. So somebody made this report and gave me their permission to take this report and make it more accessible. And I actually did that as a separate Workout Wednesday a few weeks later after this one was published. So this is a report about NCAA, U.S. college football, revenues and expenses. Football in the U.S. is a big deal. There's a lot of money in it. So we have a report that shows revenue, expenses, and profits total from a selection of years, as well as a trend over time with a little tooltip report that breaks it down by conference by year, and then the breakdown total by conference. So I could set this to a particular year, or I could look across all the years shown. This report is not particularly accessible, and there are some small effort things, low effort things that we can do to fix that. So first, let's look at our titles. We have a page title, NCAA revenues and expenses. Okay, not bad. We're kind of using this card as our title for our line chart, although we do have our axis labeled. And then these bar charts just say conference. That's even worse, less descriptive than the auto text that, that Power BI generates. Sorry, I'm going to adjust my mic here. So what if we fixed it just a little? What if we said revenues by conference in USD? What if we labeled our cards to say what we're looking at, revenues and the currency? We've already told them at the top that it's related to NCAA. We don't necessarily care that it's football, American football, but we might be able to put that in there as well. But the goal with our descriptive titles is think about people who it takes more effort to consume your charts, or people who are just busy and tired. A lot of us are jet lagged because we flew here from other countries in very distant time zones. How can I make their life easier? What information could I give them where they don't have to sit and wonder, what currency is this in? You know, what time period is this from? So if you notice, my title at the top also changed. So we can affect a couple things in our design. This title is actually where you see the blue underline generated by a DAX formula. And I did that by creating a text box, and then I have a formula called page title. And so I told it, just say NCAA revenues and expenses, and then if there's one year selected, tell me the year. If there's multiple, I only allowed single selection, so it's either all or one. Then go ahead and say 2005 to 2017. Now you don't have to wonder about that anymore. You can do the same thing with any chart in the title properties, which is under general, or you can just go and type in your information there. So on the visual format pane, general title. Just give people a little more information so that they don't have to get stuck on that, and they can happily read your chart with the context that they need. The second thing you can do is change your tab order. In this room, raise your hand if you are aware of tab order. I have a theory. Oh, that's a lot better than I usually get. All right. Tab order helps people who use a keyboard, often, people with screen readers too, to navigate your report. So where we may scan with our eyes and then interact with the mouse, they would scan with a keyboard and screen reader or braille reader. I'm going to show you what the default unchanged experience is like, and you'll see a dark outline around the visual that I am navigating. And if you notice, it is not in any helpful order. By default, Power BI sets the tab order to the order in which you placed the visual on the page. So we can set our tab order. It is under View in the selection pane. We start on layer order, but if we switch, we can see our tab order. So we'll see it starts at 1. 1 is first. The last number, largest number is last, and you can have things that are not visible. You can hide them. There is a really nice button that says, have tab order match your visual order. And if you click that, it'll actually sort by Y and then X coordinates. Hopefully my screen will stay still for us. So if I go to a page where I have my tab order set, here's the experience. I start on the title, then I go to my slicer, and all of this is keyboard accessible, so I could go into my slicer and choose a value, that type of thing. So people that can't use a mouse can still get all the interactivity of a Power BI report. But now it matches the way the eye might scan. So I'm probably going to look down the revenues column first because all of that is related. And then I'll do expenses. And then I'll do profits. And this report, I don't usually include these, but it had a decorative line in it, a shape. If you have something that isn't relevant, people don't need to land on, you can click the button to show or hide it. So it's hidden and it's under all the numbered items. So that is tab order. A big one that people overlook a lot is color contrast. So I'm going to go back to my original report here, hide my tab order a bit. We're going to need the report to show up to see color contrast. All right. This might look good to a lot of us, but now picture someone with low vision, glaucoma, color vision deficiency. We're going to see if this other one works better real quick. They have a harder time seeing colors that are not very different from their background. All right, it wasn't the dongle. So what if we made our color contrast just a little bit better? We can do that. We can actually measure color contrast. So I'm going to pull up my handy dandy color contrast analyzer. And actually, I've kind of switched to Accessibility Insights is my new favorite color contrast analyzer because of that thing in the background on the other one. And we can do just a little bit of measurement. So when we measure graphical non-text objects, we want our color contrast to be at least 3:1. So the blue is fine, it's 3.6. Our text is 15:1. Text we generally want to be 4.5. There's a few more rules to it, but if you just need an easy way to go, 4.5:1 is fine. What we're going to find, though, is that yellow is 1.3:1. We don't want to allow ourselves to be so close to the background color. We want our stuff to stand out so that people can read it better. We can change our colors and make that work. Okay. We can also change the text where it says conference as this little light gray. You do not want to use light gray on white. I don't think it's helping. Thank you, though. So let's go look at what it looks like if we just adjusted our colors just a little bit. So I changed my, when it shows up, yellow to blue. Oh, it's coming back. Yeah, the blinking is not very accessible. I apologize for that. A little out of my control. We had it for a second. Let's see.
This works.
All right, thank you, support team. So let's measure this real fast. And that's 7 to 1, so that's much better than the yellow. So you can do all these small changes to get something that is a lot easier for someone to read. So think you have hundreds, thousands of reports in your Power BI tenant, and someone who has low vision comes in and wants to just do their job. Would you rather change your colors as you start building them now, or have to go back and change all 100-something reports because you didn't really understand how much color contrast affects somebody with low vision? Next one is alt text. Alt text has to do with screen readers. People who are low vision or blind often use a screen reader to help them navigate applications and web pages. I'm going to turn on my screen reader just so you can hear it. It's very talkative.
5 ways Power BI desktop window. New page. Alt text tab item.
Windows.
Exiting narrator.
Oh, it did turn on. We're just not getting
Power BI
sound.
desktop window. New page.
Oh.
Alt text tab item.
There we go.
6 of 9. Selected.
All right.
Original tab item. Document.
If you can't hear it, it's actually speaking in the captions at the bottom
Power
too.
BI. Profits. Car. Stacked area chart. Conference. Stacked bar chart. Slicer. Conference. Stacked bar chart.
So what you'll hear it say is whatever title is on the report, if the title is turned on, and then
Conference
what type of chart it
ABBB10.
is.
Total profits 33,450,003. Document. New page. Alt text. Power BI report. 2006. Total expenses 4,410,154,298. Power BI report.
There we
Group.
go. So if I switch to this
NCAA
better,
revenues and expenses 2005 to 2017.
it's going to read what my alt text
Select
is.
a year between
and it's going to go in the right tab
2005
order because
and
I've set my tab order on this
revenues,
page.
total revenue for selected years in US dollars. Card. Line chart showing revenues by year from
But we're
2005
getting extra
to
information this time.
2017. Stacked area. Revenues by conference in USD bar chart showing total revenues by conference for the selected years. Visualizations. Button.
All right,
expanded.
we're going to turn it off because she's very talkative.
Exiting narrator.
And so I did a couple things here. Just like I did my title with the DAX formula, I can do the same thing with my alt text. So under general, alt text, you can do conditional formatting and you can set it. And so I used page title so that it would read out what my text box actually says. The other thing you can do is just enter static alt text. So again, under general, there is an alt text text box here for any visual, any item on the page. Our last thing
There is a question on your screen.
is just to supplement color. So we said no use of color alone. We don't want to just use color to indicate anything meaningful. That happens a lot in tables with statuses. So here, my original did conditional formatting for the background, and I chose red and green. Well, this is very difficult to see if you are low vision or color vision deficient. So instead, what if we use symbols? So I'm going to flip this to one that has a few more symbols. I happen to know 2005 is an unfortunate year for their expenses. So we can see I still got the same information. I can still use color. I can have a screen reader read that shape though. Because I've added shape in addition to the color, this works out for more people. So, to recap, we did descriptive titles. Tell people more information so they know what they're about to consume and can decide if they want to use their energy to consume that. Set your tab order so that people that use their keyboard and a screen reader can get the same experience in the correct order as they tab through the report. Check your color contrast. Light colors on a light background are not visible for everybody. So we may want to trend towards darker colors on a light background, or the reverse. If you have a dark background, you want light colors. You can measure that with a tool, and there are current guidelines for how to measure it. Alt text. The screen reader will always read title, alt text, and the chart type as Power BI calls it. You may, in your alt text, want to tell the colloquial name of the chart type. For instance, my stacked area chart, I called a line chart because that's the purpose it was serving in my report. So I said it's a line chart of revenues in USD. And then if you can, depending on if your report is static or dynamic, why is this chart there? Tell people why they want to read it. And then if there's some kind of filter or a non-default interaction you want to warn someone about who can't see it on the page, the alt text is a good place to do that as well. So you heard the screen reader say, for selected years, because I'm trying to tell people that there is a slicer on the page that they've already encountered before they got to that chart. And then the principle of no use of color alone. So we could use background colors, but that's not understandable. People can't perceive it if they have trouble seeing colors. So do color and a shape, or color and text. You have a lot of options. Just no use of color alone actually fixes this for a lot of people. So that was our 5 ways in exactly 20 minutes. I hope you'll take this with you and make your reports more accessible. Thanks. And for the person who asked, tools to check for color blindness, look up Coblis. You can actually flip through and see different kinds of color blindness, and there's low vision simulators online as well.
Coblis.
Yes, C-O-B-L-I-S.
One just real quick mention that I discovered on titles not being read for certain things. I found that slicers and single value cards, even if I give them a custom title, if I call it whatever it is, it still just calls it card, single value card, and it always calls it slicer on some screen readers. So other charts were read correctly for the titles. Any renaming got skipped over basically on those two types of visuals.
Yeah, Reed made a good point. Not every screen reader is the same, so your experience will be different depending on, I was using Narrator, but you could have JAWS or something like that. So just check it if you know someone's using a screen reader, ask them what they use and try to accommodate that. All right, last question.
You had a program. Oh.
It's a microphone.
You had a It's very loud now. You had a program up for sort of like accessibility.
Accessibility Insights. It actually comes from Microsoft. I don't have it open anymore, but it's a free download that helps you check web pages, but it'll also let you check colors.
So that's not pre-built into Windows 11. You downloaded it.
No, I downloaded it.
And my second thing was, you talked about like these ratios and the appropriate colors. Where could you find that information from? And a sub question of that is, you said about like 5:1 ratio is good. Is that even if your background isn't white? If you were doing like red on yellow, I don't know, like, does that ratio still hold?
Yeah, so the question was about color contrast and how do you know, where do you find more information on the ratios? The ratios I'm using come from the WCAG standards. That's what's being used right now. There's a lot of ways to measure it. It will change over time as science figures things out. But if you look up WCAG, that is what all the tools are measuring by right now. And so that's what the text being 4.5 to 1 and the the graphical content being 3 to 1 is from WCAG.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.